Well, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking your time to kind of lend your knowledge and your skills to the Student Association here at the Kingston campus. Um, and yeah, just looking forward to having a good chat with you and learning some stuff about how we can use mental health and meditation techniques in a tough time like this. So again, thanks for joining us.
Awesome. You're welcome. My pleasure. I'm just going to
Great.
grab a piece of paper here.
Of course. Yeah.
Here's mine. Okay, good. All right.
Awesome. Well, yeah, Joanne, my name is Leighton. I am a fourth year Bachelor of Business Administration student here at the college. I'm a student manager for the Student Association, and under my portfolio falls this podcast. So Reed has been with us since last summer. Him and Danny, I don't know if you know his buddy Danny, but they do a great job for us as hosts, along with myself and Elle, our Student Association president. And about 3 times a week, with all the time we have our hands on, we're trying to do episodes like this. So again, thanks for being here. Would you mind just, for our recording, would you mind just telling us who you are and what you do in the Kingston community here?
Yeah, absolutely. So who am I? It's a big question, but I'm a psychotherapist. I have a private practice, and I work at Queen's University with the School of Business. So I see the students at all levels getting undergrad business degrees, PhD business degrees. So yeah, that's the bulk of my work.
Oh, cool.
So, Joanne, I guess getting right into it, what are your thoughts on everything that are going on? And maybe we can get all the negativity out of the way, and then good and bad. What do you see of this COVID-19?
I think that's a really good place to start, Reed, because there's a tendency, and it's not a bad thing, it's just timing. There's a tendency to silver line stuff. And I want to use that as a verb because I think it's cool. So we go immediately to, well, the planet is actually much better off without this mess. And now we have time and all of that good stuff, time with our families, which can be either good or bad, who knows. But so that's not a bad thing to do. However, before we try to silver line or deny that this is as bad as it is, I think that it's important that we acknowledge that this effing sucks. And that we have never, at least those of us alive right now, and certainly most of the people in colleges and university have never been through anything like this before. I think the Spanish plague or the Black Plague or the Spanish influenza was the last time, and none of us were alive. So we have no way to predict how long it's going to last, how much it's going to impact us, what the fallout's going to be. And so we need to acknowledge, I want, anybody listening, if they're interested, to put their hands on their hearts and simply take a moment to acknowledge that this truly is a little bit or a lot scary, and that we are in a state of not knowing. And our brains do not like to not know. Right. That puts us into freaking panic, right? So there's that anxiety, which we need to acknowledge. There's no way to sugarcoat it or cover it with anything green. And then there's the other thing, which is, at least I don't know about you, but I'm sad. I'm missing a lot of things. Mm-hmm. I'm missing people. I'm missing touch. I like to dance. I'm like, I don't know if we'll ever dance again. I'm missing, and I don't want to dance with myself. It's just not the same. So I just want to say that. I tried holding on to the mirror and doing a few moves, and I'm just not, So there's the missing of all the things that we were looking forward to. I had friggin' tickets to Hamilton. It's not happening. Honestly, people. So it's just, and we have this, we do this as well as humans. And I want to invite you not to do it. We go, well, seriously, Joanne, you're missing tickets to Hamilton when people are dying. Get a grip. But I want to invite you not to compare loss. It's not helpful. And I do want to acknowledge that there is, obviously people are much worse off than I am or you might be. However, take a moment to acknowledge the losses of the future, of things you were hoping for, of the way things are not the way that they used to be, right? And take a moment to not compare with the horrendous stuff that might be happening. So that's the first part that I find is important in this pandemic, is to first acknowledge the feelings that are won't go away unless you acknowledge them. And the primary ones that I imagine you might be feeling, and certainly I am feeling, would be anxiety about the unknown future. And I mean, I'm talking about it and I'm like, oh, I noticed I stopped breathing, right? and like lost, like feeling like sad. I'm like, why am I so sad, right? So yeah, and so I don't know if anybody's relating to that, but, or am I just out here alone on an island?
No, I think those are some great reflections. I think you hit the nail on the head. Definitely, just to echo kind of some of your sentiment, we are kind of all feeling a sense of loss right now, where our routines are all thrown off. We're not in our normal kind of communities. Reed and I aren't in school. We haven't seen our teachers, our friends, our classmates. You haven't seen clients and your students either. So I think anxiety and mental health is going to be a huge issue coming out of this pandemic in the following months. And it really just, for me, my biggest takeaway is just how much we've taken for granted. I mean, for just to be able to go over to your friend's house, meet them for a coffee, go to the local pub, have a burger and a pint, all that kind of stuff. The grocery store. I mean, everything has changed, and it's kind of thrown off everybody's kind of sense of direction and flux. And I 110 support your sentiment that not comparing loss is good in a time like this, but it is obviously very important to recognize that at least this is an issue and everybody's going through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just, and I would echo that too. I mean, I have a ton of work to do, and there are anxieties that I'm facing right now that are very real. And then I always think, well, I'm not a frontline worker right now. I'm not one of those people that's going out there and risking their lives, which is important thing to put in perspective. But I think what you're saying is, like, instead of put that in perspective, but don't feel guilty about what I'm doing. Don't feel guilty about any of the thoughts that I'm having, because that's completely normal. And no one should be judging anybody for what they're kind of going through right now, whether that be good or bad.
Yeah. Yes, I love that you just said that, Reed. I was just listening to somebody that I think made sense. And he was sharing that when we judge, because we're in judgment about ourselves, and we're like, oh, I should be doing better, and where's all this time going? And, and I don't have it bad. I'm not a frontline worker, or I don't have a family member who has COVID right now, or we do that. So basically what we're doing is we're judging ourselves. And when we judge, there needs to be a sentence, right? So it's like, and now am I sentencing myself because I've just put myself in judgment? So when I become aware that I'm judging myself, I can, with as much compassion, connect myself to everybody else is going through something, whether I want to scale it or not. And then I am connecting compassion. When I can be compassionate to myself, then I can be compassionate to other people who are in worse situations. But I cannot forget to first be compassionate to myself, right? Yeah. Does that make sense?
That does.
Absolutely. So do you maybe want to touch upon how can students, by the time this comes out, this will be beginning of the last week of school, and there are going to be final exams, and there's going to be all sorts of stress. And there's even going to be some people that are, feeling sad about how this is ending for them. Like the fact that they can't really have that graduation ceremony, have that, last party with their classmates or whatever that may be. I guess what's your overall advice for the students getting through this and how they can overcome something like this?
Wow. Don't ask me any hard questions before noon. Just when I usually pick up my drinking habit, but okay. When you were talking, I guess I got stuck on overcome, the word overcome, especially to fourth year students you're talking about, right? Is that Reed? The fourth year students?
Definitely, I think it's definitely a two-part question, I guess, right? I mean, the fourth year students that are obviously leaving, and then it's kind of like, that's it. Like, thanks for your time, thanks for your grades, thanks for your work. See you later. And you know, I know the faculty is working on many other great things so that we don't have to do that. But obviously, you know, at this time specifically, we're left in a time of kind of unknown and a little uncertainty, and it's just sort of it's just a very weird time overall to be getting through.
Yeah. And again, I come back to acknowledging, I don't think we're going to overcome this. The reason being that humans, we mark endings with rituals, which is why we do have funerals. And, you know, it's funny, we're moving into this time with funerals where I'm so aware that people are not going to get to have funerals, right? Because social distancing doesn't allow for funerals. And I'm aware that as I speak to nurses at KGH, that people who are dying don't get to say goodbye to their family members except over FaceTime. It's like nuts. Just to come back to the piece that we need rituals. It is how we mark endings, which is what a graduation ceremony is, which is what a last class is, which is what a good old a last party with your friends. Those are things that are going to be missing from your ending, right? And I'm not sure how we overcome that, except to acknowledge that there's a piece that's missing, right? That we didn't get to do this ritual,
right?
And I wonder, because humans are amazing. I wonder what can nothing will ever replace an in-person ritual or graduation, but is there some kind of way to gather people for a goodbye that will be good enough? So that there's some kind of ritual, right? And I know it's not the same to drink with all your friends on Zoom, but whatever. It's like, can we take some effort and make some effort to create something that's a ritual? And I don't know if that's possible or who's gonna do that, but I'm certainly gonna invite you to do that with each other, certainly with your closest friends. And even though it's not the same, it's something, right? So I'm laughing because I work with some fourth year students at Queens, and they were talking about the fact that they didn't get to graduate or have the prom or any of that stuff. And in this group that I work with, I gathered up some capes I had at home, and I gathered up some hats that I had at home. And believe me, they weren't the little graduation hats; they were redonkulous hats. However, we did this. This was before social isolation. This was right before the crap hit the fan. But we did a whole ceremony, and I printed out, diplomas for them. They were fake diplomas, and they said interesting things on them. But so they all put the hats on and the fake gown, and we did diplomas, and we had something, right? And so and it was funny, and it acknowledged that they didn't have the other thing, but that we had some way of remembering, of recalling, of marking in our brains that some transition is being made, that something is going to be different. Right? Does that make sense? I don't know if that's an invitation, right? It's an invitation to do something. Don't just let this go unmarked.
Do you think, Joanne, that people or
I try not to think, Leighton, sorry. Go ahead.
Fair enough. Would you kind of agree with my statement that I guess people need that kind of transition? They need that finality. They need that closure to kind of move on. Is that kind of what you're getting at here?
Yes, I am getting at that. It's easier when we have a ritual. It's easier for us. The brain pays attention. It's like, okay, I want to mark that it's why people burn all of in the good old days when we had actual pictures. It's why when you break up, you burn your ex's pictures. It's like, it's a marking of this. It's what sadness is, has a function. People get sad for a reason, even though we don't like the feeling, and tears are snotty and unattractive. But we have sadness the brain has sadness in order to mark that this is different, that this that you had, that you really, some parts of it you like, liked it, some parts you didn't, but this is going to be different. It wants you to pay attention so that you can eat more easily, make room for that next piece in your life, right? Even if you don't know what it is. So yes, I would say it is going to be a lot easier if you can find a way to mark it with some kind of ritual, and hopefully with someone else, right? Makes it richer. Yeah. It's hard to have a funeral on your own, by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about all those good times.
Right.
So then going back to sort of like what the students are going through, is what's something that you could say that would motivate them to get through these final exams, and that goes for any student, not even just graduating students, and through these final assignments. What do you think is that key to make sure that they can push forward?
Besides just get this shit done.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of a philosophy I've tried to incorporate into my entire life, which is, why am I doing something? Am I doing these? Did I take on this learning just to get this piece of paper? Or did I take on this learning because I really wanted to learn about whatever it is that you wanted to learn, whether it's business or marketing or whatever? Did I take on this learning because it was interesting to me, because I wanted to grow as a person, because I felt like I could make a difference in the world? Like, hopefully, to come back to the reason that you began this journey in your college or university or whatever. Come back to, why did I begin this in the first place? What was the internal motivation, not the external, which is, I'll get a job, right? Because right now we don't know. So it's sort of like, okay, what was my internal motivation? And therefore, why, that comes back to, why would I want to write these exams? It's not so much why I want to write these exams. It's why I actually want to learn the information. Mm-hmm. Writing the exam is sort of like, well, now I know the information. Someone else can see that I know it. But do I actually, why do I want to even learn this information? Right? Goes back to, why do I even want to be doing marketing or business? I don't know. That's going to be, motivation comes from, it's a feeling, right? And you have to evoke a feeling in your body, not a like, oh, I just need to get this to get my friggin' piece of paper. So in the year, when this shit is over, I can get a job, right? A feeling comes from your heart. It comes from like moving you towards, who's the person I want to be? Who do I want to be? Yeah. I want to be somebody that finishes, or I want to be somebody that serves some kind of humankind or nature, whatever, by this knowledge that I have. I don't know if that's making any sense to you.
No, totally. Absolutely. It's something that you have to prepare yourself for. It's not something you just like get through and push through and expect motivation just to come out of thin air.
Yes. It has to come from inside. Yeah.
I also think it's hard to kind of get there on your own as a student. I think there needs to be, as you said, some sort of external factors, as well as maybe a friend or a family group. But I think right now, with the situation with everybody quarantining, it's going to be quite hard, and it is quite hard for students to find motivation on their own right now in the next 2 weeks to push through and finish. So I really appreciated your kind of your insight in just remembering what it's all about. Why did you get in here in the first place? Why did you click accept on that offer letter to St. Lawrence College? You know, why are you here? Go back to day one basics. And yeah, thank you for that. I think that's a good reflection that we could all use right now. So thank you, Joanne.
You're so welcome, Lynn.
So I guess part of the reason why we wanted to come today was to kind of walk through some meditation. So before we do any kind of meditation, would you like to kind of maybe explain mindfulness and meditation and the importance of it, and how people can fit it in their day?
Sure. And I'm aware that my phone is digging in the background, but that's all part of life and mindfulness. We will be distracted. I'm gonna walk us through a bit of a different meditation, if you will. There's meditation which is formal. There's sitting meditation or mindfulness, which is formal, and that's a great practice. And certainly there's all kinds of apps, like there's tons of apps out there that can help you do that. And again, the reason that you might want to begin again a sitting meditation is that because it begins to change your brain, which is so cool. So when we sit for 20 minutes every day, it's like, so I don't see anything different, but you're actually laying down tracks in your brain to be a more calm, focused, present person, right? However, you may not feel like you can do that right now. So you can begin to be present as much as possible in everyday moments, which is mindfulness, according to the definitions that I like, mean coming back to the moment, or recognizing that your mind, my mind is like a puppy and it likes to piss in every corner. So it's like, oh, I just noticed that the puppy was pissing in that corner. So I want to bring, which is usually a corner about the future. So I'm going to bring my puppy back with love and compassion, knowing that that's what minds are supposed to do. They are supposed to wander, right? And so bringing my mind back with compassion to my breathing, or to the person in front of me, or to washing my hands for the 50th millionth time, or to walking around the house because it's freaking snowing outside today. Or
It is right now.
I know, right? Or if I was walking outside, I would use my senses to connect to the snow. It's coming back to the moment and to the breath, or to your senses without judgment. Simply, and that is like a 50 million times a day, right? But there's another thing that I want to walk people through right now, if that would be something good.
Please.
Is that something that, okay. And so it takes a hot 60 seconds, if that much. And I'm finding it really helpful. So it's about, and I'm using, and I got this, I want to acknowledge, her name is Dr. Melrose. And if you want me to send you a link to her stuff, but she does a lot of brain image scanning. And when people are in anxiety, basically what happens is we end up turning off the parts of our brain that can feel for other people, the feeling part, and the parts of our brain that knows, that thinks logically. So we're basically in fight, flight, freeze, and we're just like, we can't even sit down to study. So we want to be able to turn off the part of our brain that just is like either freezing or folding through Netflix binges that never lasted this long, or just, holding up in the bed, not wanting to get up, or binging on YouTube, all the millions of ways that we have. I didn't even talk about the illegal stuff, right? All the ways we have to fight, flight, freeze. So when we do this little thing that I'm going to teach you, it's little, but it's important. What you end up doing is turning off your fight, flight, freeze, and turning back on the parts of your brain that can have compassion for yourself and for other people, as well as the logical thinking brain that went, this is why I'm doing this. I need to be doing this because blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so what it looks like is this. I use a triangle to help me remember. And the 3 points on my triangle are nose at the top, which is I begin with the breath. The second part of the triangle is toes, which I'll walk you through. So you're going to want to have your feet on the ground. And then the third part is your back, right? So it's 3 parts. And before we do it, I want to suggest I bring myself back to doing this every time I have to do my password on my phone or my pass finger thing. Do you know what I mean? Right, because that's like 100 times a day. And so if I bring myself to do this thing 100 times a day, believe me, you're changing the way your mind operates. It's like really cool, okay? Easy. So are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And so you want to get yourself, you can also do this standing or walking. If you happen to be standing or walking, you don't do the back piece, obviously, right? Unless you have a very good imagination. So you can close your eyes or you can open your eyes. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes the first time if that's comfortable for you. And the first part of the triangle is just breathing. So it's the nose. So become aware of your breath. And you might want to simply use the words breathing in and breathing out. Noticing that your breath is breathing for you. Your body is breathing for you without you even having to ask. And you might want to gently and mindfully begin to slow that breath by using the words breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, and breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. And in this moment, you can simply remind yourself that you have nowhere to go and nothing to do in this moment but breathe. And I'm going to invite you to put your hand on your heart area, your chest area, and simply notice again how your body expands with the breath in, taking in everything that you need, and how it contracts with the breath out, letting go of everything that no longer serves you. I want you to notice how your breath supports you without you even having to ask. And now I want you to direct your breath to your heart area and imagine for a moment that your breath is coming in and out of your body through your heart. It's kind of like you have a nose in your heart area. And if there are sounds in the room or on this recording, you simply acknowledge the sounds and acknowledge them, and then bring your attention back to imagining that your breath is coming in and out through your heart. And when you're ready, move your attention to the next bit of the triangle, which is your toes. So that was nose, and this is toes. And so wiggle your toes, or wriggle, I don't know the word, your toes in your shoes, or if you're bare feet on the ground. And now I want you to imagine that the soles of your feet, from the soles of your feet, are these amazing, thick, strong roots that connect your soles, the soles of your feet, deep, deep, deep into the center, into the core of this earth. Really feel, really get what that's like. And the key word is supported. You are supported by the earth. Another image that you might find helpful is imagine that you are barefoot in some warm, wet sand. You're just sunk into that nice warm sand. Really connect to the experience of being supported. And when you're ready, you move to the third part of the triangle if you happen to be seated, which is connecting to your back and leaning into the chair or the couch or the bed or the person that is supporting you. Really connecting to the support that is there for you without you ever having to ask. It is always there for you. you can stay here for as long or as little as you like. This experience should not take more than 60 seconds. And as you practice it, it'll take even less. And so when you're ready, allow your eyes to open, or if they were already open, that's awesome. And come back to your present reality. So what was that like?
That was cool.
It's a buzz without the drugs. Yeah, it's free buzz, no hangover. Yeah.
That was interesting. Thank you. For somebody who's never really experienced meditation or anything like that before, how do you kind of differentiate between the meditative state and, simply falling asleep?
When you are in meditation, you are very much aware. You're up. You're not asleep. You're very present. You are, in fact, very alert. You will be more alert the more you practice meditation, or even, I'm going to just use the word mindfulness, which is a bit different. You're very present and awake and alert. In fact, if there was an emergency, you'd be quicker to respond because you're in this moment. Your mind is here, not in the past or in the future, right? In meditation, when we are meditating, we do move into a different state. But it's not sleeping. The mind does drop into a different state. It's a healing state. It's a state where the body can repair itself, and we come off of our nervous system. But when we fall asleep, we're not meditating. I don't know how to explain it without using fancy scientific language. But when you're asleep, you're asleep. You're not present and aware. You're not. Yeah. I don't know.
Are there similar ways of recharging? Like, I mean, because both are technically recharging. Like, we do need sleep,
yes,
but we also do need meditation in our day. I think it is so important to kind of, we need sleep to rest and to shut down, but we need meditation to wake up and to be alert. But at the same time, we're recharging our nerves and we're recharging our body. So maybe is there similarities and there's differences? Or
yeah, you're right, Reed. Both are used to recharge the mind and the body. When we sleep, we're taking memories from the day and experiences, and we're taking them from the short-term area that we store experience, and we're putting them in the long-term area, which is why you need to sleep before an exam, because it's putting it into the place where you can actually recall it. And we're repairing the body. If you want to make people really batshit crazy, deprive them of sleep. Because the mind cannot repair itself. But when we're awake also too, we can be awake and in our fight, flight, freeze mode all day long. That's going to be exhausting. Humans are not meant to be in that mode for extended periods of time. We are meant to be in fight, flight, freeze in a crisis or in survival, which we've all been in this pandemic up until now. I think we're running out of adrenaline now. I think we're starting to crash from the adrenaline, which is why we might start to feel the grief. But we need to be able to take ourselves out of that fight, flight, freeze response where we can't live forever. It's not sustainable. We need to repair and become present and be able to have empathy for ourselves and other people by coming off of that adrenaline fight, flight, freeze system. And we do that by becoming mindful, slowing the breath down, becoming aware of the present moment and whatever is next in front of you, right? Does that make sense? In a easy layman, yeah.
Wonderful.
Cool.
How long have you been practicing meditation and teaching it?
I learned transcendental meditation back when I see how long ago that was. It was a long time ago. It was before my kids were born. And I practiced like twice a day. That was like formal meditation. It wasn't mindfulness, which has become a thing more in the recent. We've done a lot of, so that was my formal meditation practice. And then certainly over the years, I got busy. My kids were small. That went to hell in a handbasket. And which is what I want to say to people is that it's a practice that come back to it if it got thrown away, right? And so now I've been practicing again. Certainly I don't do it twice a day, I do it once a day. But mindfulness, there was a whole bunch of research on mindfulness with John Kabat-Zinn. It started with people who had chronic pain. And they did a whole bunch of research on mindfulness in terms of helping people with anxiety and depression and ADHD and lack of focus. And there's a ton of good research that says it can change the brain, and it does. So that's when that's when people started to teach it in psychotherapy, right? Practices that come back to the moment. I can eat mindfully. I can drink my coffee mindfully. I can talk to you mindfully. I don't have to sit and do a formal practice, although that's a good thing. But it can be something that I do when I wash my hands every day, which means I use my 5 senses. Well, I don't lick the soap, but I use my 4 senses. If I was to wash my hands, which we do every day right now a lot, and I was to be mindful right then, that's it. I would be like using my 5 senses. So I'd be looking at the water and the soap and the colors and the bubbles. I would be smelling the soap. I would be listening to the water and myself singing happy birthday twice. I would be feeling the soap on my hands and the water. And when my mind wandered, which would be like, I can't believe I still have to wash my hands as many times a day. That's your mind wandering. You go, oh, come back, honey. You're pissing in the corner again. Come back, puppy. Back to the feeling of the soap. And that is a simple everyday practice of mindfulness. Yeah.
Just really being aware of what's going on around you, and just kind of really, not that you could ever be connected, I guess, with washing your hands, but really taking it from more than surface value. You're not just washing your hands, you're connecting and you're feeling things. So yeah.
And you're changing your brain. It's so cool, right? Yeah.
So is there such thing as is there such thing as too much meditation, too much mindfulness? Like, can it become addicting, and can it become bad for you, like overindulging, or is it the only thing that you can do all the time without it hurting you?
So I don't know about a formal meditation. I mean, certainly if you're not paying your bills or feeding your family, because sorry, I can't come to work today, I'm in meditation. Screw you. That might be a problem, but I don't know anybody. It's difficult to sit for long periods of time, except for Buddhist monks or people that is their life, right? They do that. And if you want to look at some really cool research on transcendental meditation, the crime rates drop. So they move meditators to cities. And when a certain amount of people are meditating in a city at the same time, the crime rate drops. It's like we can influence the world, right? It's like phenomenal. But so let's just talk about daily mindfulness. You cannot do too much of it. It's really hard to do. It's simple, but it's difficult to keep bringing your mind back. But it's not addicting, trust me. You can try it. I wish I was more addicted to it. I love when my mind wanders. It's so much fun. So, and ping pong, and I'm a little addicted to adrenaline, right? So if that's the addiction, really, I'm like, whoa. But bringing myself back to the present moment and realizing the only thing I actually do have control over is my mind. So bringing it back, there will never be too much of it. There's no way I could not function better when I'm doing that, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. What, Joanne, what would you say are the main benefits that people practicing this would receive? And maybe you can speak from your clients and your personal perspective. Why is it important to make this a daily habit, and what can people expect to get out of it, long term?
I love the getting thing. So I'll refund you your misery if you don't want to do it. So here's what I noticed is that, okay, let's just go for relationships, right? If I'm mindful when you're talking to me, which is why I love doing what I do, because I'm so mindful when I'm with you, right? But let's just say that I'm with my spouse or my children or whatever, and we're in a disagreement. If I'm mindful, I can actually listen way better than if I wasn't mindful. So you want to bet that that's going to help my relationships, right? I'm going to slow down enough to stop firing my right arguments in their direction, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be breathing slowly so I can actually have some compassion for that. That's gonna improve all your relationships, right? In terms of, I have a very busy brain. And I think we all do right now. So mindfulness helps me focus, which is, oh my God, please, if I could buy focus, I will. And I know some people do try to buy focus by buying drugs, but seriously, if you don't want to spend the money on drugs, you doing mindfulness really increases your focus. It also helps you manage anxiety much better and the things that make us depressed. Because here's why. When you come back to the present moment, there's like some space. It's like I like to use the word, the door wedge. You know that thing that you stick in the door to stop it from banging?
Yeah.
When you practice being in the present moment, you can stick a door wedge between yourself, it's like you have two minds. The one mind that knows better and the one mind that wants to panic. So when you're mindful, you're aware of the mind that wants to panic or the mind that wants you to opt out of life by staying in bed all day. You're like, oh, look at me wanting to choose to not get up today. That's really interesting, honey bunny. And then you're like, you have compassion for that part of you and you go, okay. And then you come back to yourself and this is the present moment. And in this present moment, what's the one thing I need to do next? I need to move my little legs over the bed and move towards the sink. Like, that's all I'm doing right now. Because if I was to go ahead and go, holy shit, I have an exam to write today and I'm not ready, I'd be like back in the bed, right? Then I'd be like, oh, look at you into the future, honey bunny. Come back to the present. Because right now, we're just brushing our teeth. So you just become aware that you're not led. Your life is not being led by those things that make you end up in a place you don't want to be. You have more control over your mind, and who doesn't want that? I want that. Right? Yeah.
That's a good insight. Yeah, I like that. You're kind of learning and connecting with yourself to kind of be more empowered in a way. Is that kind of how I could kind of paraphrase it?
Yeah, you're becoming aware. Yes, you will become more powerful of your own. This is basically the only thing you can control.
Right.
Is yourself, right?
That's great sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah. You also become aware of your body, which is also a good thing. Because your body gives you information, right? So you're like, oh, I'm aware that my chest is really tight right now. So that means that I likely am anxious, which means that I likely need to slow down my breathing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just recognizing those triggers or those signs that you can then control it more. Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, space. Space is I love that word.
Yeah, that's great.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. Joanne, thank you so much for coming on. It's funny, if you haven't listened to our podcast, we like to interview students and faculty in the school, but we also try to interview community members such as yourself to kind of help our student body. And I think the practices that you teach are just so important. And I also just want to share that, and I forgot to mention this with you, but you and I have been working together for about 5 years now. And you've changed my life for the better, and that's through meditation and mindfulness and all the practices that you teach, and you change so many other people's lives. So I just want to thank you for that. And I think just doing something like this today, I think we're hoping to help a lot of people with a platform that they can reach out to us. And if you're open for it, do you have contact information so people could reach out to you if you're taking on any new clients, or if there's other avenues, maybe talk about your business?
Oh my gosh. So just wanted to thank you for that acknowledgement, Reed. You have also changed my life, just so you know. I didn't say how, but I love working with students. I'm a lifelong learner, and I think I might be stuck in that stage developmentally, but anyway, I hate growing up. So yeah, I am taking on people if they're okay with Zooming, like, because that's the way we're doing therapy these days, which is interesting. And so certainly people can reach out to me. I don't mind if you text me, and my number is 613-484-6310. 484-6310. So you can ask me questions to see if I'd be a fit for you or not. I'm covered by lots of insurance plans, which helps these days. And my email is, I don't know, should I spell it? It's, you want to just...
We could probably just put it up on the screen.
Yeah, because that'd be easier.
We'll put it in the description on the link when this goes live on YouTube on next week. So we'll get that information and just have it below for people to access.
Perfect. Awesome. I'm also running some online groups on managing powerful emotions starting in May. So if anybody's interested in that, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Again, just to echo what Reed said, really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to kind of share your resources and yourself and your teachings with not only myself, but all of our viewers who are watching this and students who are going through a tough time. So Joanne, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And Reed, thanks a lot for setting all this up. And hopefully this doesn't go on for too much longer, but if it does, Joanne, we'll probably have to have you back on in about a month or so.
I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Joanne.
We'll sign off there. And thanks again, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and we'll say goodbye for now.
Okay.